Tanse, welcome back to Métis Minute, your source for Métis news in Region 7. Welcome back to Métis Minute. I am your host, Samantha Loney. Today, we are going to be discussing a recent Bradford West Gwillimbury City Council meeting. For those of you unfamiliar, Bradford is in the Barrie catchment area. Today, we are going to be discussing some bylaw amendment applications for a barn located in the area. And we will also be discussing some issues concerning flooding. As we know, this past summer has seen flooding across the GTA, and these rural communities aren't exempt from these floods. So we wanted to bring you this city council meeting where Bradford City Council discussed this very issue and how to help prevent flooding in the area. But up first at the city council meeting, as we mentioned earlier, is that bylaw amendment change to the lands where a old barn currently resides and is no longer in use for farming. So we wanted to bring you that city council meeting here today.
In terms of the application, the town has received an application for a zoning bylaw amendment to support the following proposed development, which includes an event center, short-term accommodations, farmers market, horse barn, archer processing building, livestock barn, as well as a garage workshop. The application was submitted by Michael Sullivan of Landpro Planning Solutions, Inc., on behalf of the owner, Karen Mills, and the application was deemed complete on July 12th. Next slide, please. The subject property is located north on Line 2, south of Line 3, east of Road 27, and west of Canal Road, and the site area is 39.76 hectares. The applicant describes the area to be used as a farm with the occasional farmers market, as well as the event center. The surrounding property consists of agricultural properties, and there is also estate residential on the west side. Next slide, please. The following is the extract provided for the site plan from the applicant. So there's two rectangles demonstrated here, the blue one as well as the green. Within the blue one is the proposed location for the livestock, the horse barn. The short-term rental would consist of 5 tiny homes and semi-trailers, ranging in size from 40 square meters to 165 square meters, and the orchard processing building, which is about 140 square meters. The green rectangle located below in the center of the property would consist of the event barn, which is about 495 square meters, the farmers market, 740 square meters, as well as the garage workshop. Additional parking, driveway aisles, laneways will also be added throughout the proposal to access the proposed uses throughout the blue and the green rectangles. The combined total of existing and proposed parking space will result in 137 parking spaces, consisting of 2 barrier-free space and 2 loading spaces. Next slide, please. The following slide is an extract of the official plan, where the red outline represents the property. This is located outside the Bradford urban area and is designated as rural and agricultural. It permits a range of uses, inclusive but not limited to agricultural uses, agricultural related uses, as well as on-farm diversified uses. Next slide, please. This is an extract of the zoning bylaw, where the property is seen to have 3 zones. The top is agricultural, the middle section marsh agricultural, and the lower half, lower section natural heritage system 2. The proposal is identified within the agricultural as well as the marsh agricultural section, where agricultural uses are permitted, such as the proposed livestock barn and horse barn. The The area, however, does not permit for short-term accommodation, an event center, as well as farmers market and orchard processing building. The proposed development, as the proposed development is not permitted, a zoning bylaw amendment is required. Next slide, please. The following is what the applicant is proposing. There is 2 exceptions. The first is for the agricultural area, as it is, in addition to the agricultural uses permitted, it would also allow for the event venue as well as short-term accommodation. Next slide, please. You'll see that the other exception added is for the marsh agricultural. It permits a variety of uses as mentioned previously, and would also allow for the event venue, farmers market, and short-term accommodation. Next slide, please. The subject application was circulated to internal department as well as external agencies on July 12th. The following are the current agencies that showed there was no objection. In addition, since that time, we received comments from the town of BWG development engineer advising they had no concerns as well. A few correspondence were received from the public, from neighboring properties, inclusive of W. Friesman, M. Wilcox, D. Babber, A. and B. Hearn, as well as GR Gardens and Helping Hand Food Bank have provided support for the development proposal. And there is also one neighboring resident, C. Monaco, has brought about concerns about the event center and short-term accommodation, identifying that permitting these uses would result in the potential loss of prime agricultural lands in the future. Additionally, it was requested that a clear definition be provided for short-term accommodations and daily operations of the event center and orchard processing unit be assessed by determining the noise, traffic, and odors generated. Next slide, please. To close, for any members of the public interested to provide comments or to receive notification when the application will be considered to council, please send an email to plan@townofbwg.com. The owner's representative and agent is in attendance this evening and will be able to answer any questions the council may have on the application. At this point in time, I would like to invite the representative and agent to introduce themselves and add any comments. Following this, the floor will be open to questions. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you, Priscilla, for that. We will now ask the applicant to come up and present if you'd like. You have anything to add to that presentation?
Hi there, I'm Mitchell Baker. I'm a planner with Lampro Planning Solutions. We do have a couple of slides here. However, firstly, I'd just like to thank staff for preparing the staff report and providing a thorough overview for us. So I'll try to keep this short and simple. Next slide, please. So this is the subject property. As mentioned, it is located west of Highway 27, east of Highway 400, and about northwest of Canal Road. Next slide, please. So just to give some background information on this application, this was initially a bylaw enforcement issue back in mid-2021. And with following direction of planning staff and the building department, we then attended a pre-consultation meeting. And then we prepared several studies and submitted the required applications, which were then deemed incomplete. Then we went back and revised them to include several other studies, including a functional servicing report, a stormwater management report, traffic impact study, all in support of the application. This formal application was submitted back in June, which leads us to today, and then following this would be the council meeting with a decision. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, the existing zoning is agricultural with an agricultural marsh, and then the about southern third of the property is a natural heritage 2 zone. We're proposing the same zones, just with site-specific exceptions to permit various agricultural related and on-farm diversified uses. including an event venue, an occasional farmer's market, and orchard with a small processing facility, mainly to process the vegetables on site for the farmer's market and event venue. Next slide, please. So today we haven't received any comments from the general public. However, we do look forward to addressing any comments that come up today. And I know that the owner applicant, Tom, is here as well to add a few quick words as well. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Council. So yeah, it may be a little overly personal, but I grew up at 4023. Yes, that's me on the mower, and was born, raised there, and have appreciated that. Next, please. My grandfather, Sinclair Mills, bought the property from the Brandon family in the mid-1930s. Yes, if you've been to our property, that was the house, mid-1900s. We've done some upgrades since. Next, please. I'm the seventh generation of Mills that have farmed, raised a family, and created a livelihood and community in this town. And my children will be the eighth. That's us there on the screen. Next, please. The Mills, the Brandons who originally were on the 4023, the Mills farm was just across the road. The Mills, the Brandons, and many other families settled on the third line, having immigrated from Fermanagh County, Northern Ireland in the mid-1800s. And it's from this history and to celebrate this heritage that we chose the name Fermanagh Farms. I mention this history to indicate that my heritage and connection to this town and community is long and deep. My family has been here for a long time, and I anticipate that to be our future. Next. My parents, my late father Ron and my mother Karen, who is here today, believe that we are to be stewards and caretakers of what we have inherited, the land, the work of our forebears, the opportunities, and I seek to build upon this. He farmed organically, believing that was the right way to take care of the land. My late brother Alec had a similar vision, and his son and my nephew Ian continue in that to farm on the property. Next, please. The barn. In in Ron's latter years, he would look at the barn on the property, as in the picture there, and say to me, "We need to do something about the barn or it'll fall down one day." He was indeed correct, of course, but being a bank barn, it had little modern use in modern farming. It was really just serving as storage. At that point, there was no economic case to be made to invest in or repair the barn. When the Ontario Fit Solar program was announced, we saw an opportunity to install solar on the roof. Thanks to a previous council's decision to support rooftop solar installation, our barn gained a new economic lease on life. We repaired the barn and added to it to be part of our 60 kilowatt green solar energy that's generated from our farm. Next, please. It's important to note that in this economic environment, on-farm diversified uses, as in our application, is a critical way in which our farm, and possibly many others, can remain economically viable without having to sell to property investors or others. And from my perspective, this is an important aspect to the makeup of Bradford rural culture. Next, please. The barn that was repaired and added to and had the solar added to in 2014 is this same barn that now is the center of more opportunity. And with this property rezoned will allow us to fully utilize a property at the core of our vision statement, where we exist to give people the opportunity to connect and celebrate with those important to them, the environment that sustains them, and the spirit that created them. Next, please. In an increasingly urban world, people are looking for connection to nature and experiences in open spaces. And in COVID, during the winter of 2020, a woman and her daughter stayed at one of our short-term rental spaces. After pulling her vehicle out of the snow, which she got itself into, we talked for a minute and she started to cry. She told me that she was living in a condo in Mississauga, feeling like her and her daughter were locked up. And this was an opportunity to get out and make a snowman. Next, please. We've heard similar stories from couples simply enjoying our forest trails during their weekend getaway. Next, please. Or the couple having invited friends and family to come celebrate their wedding day with their ceremony among the trees and their reception in the barn. The property, the barn, the structures are all the building blocks to set the stage for all of these. Next, please. The Mills have been building community over the generations. The Mills help build and maintain the United Church in Duncarron, our nearby hamlet at County Road 27 and 3rd Line. From community gardening to helping neighbors with snow plowing, farm help, and more, our family has been a constant presence on the 3rd Line, looking for ways to engage and help our neighbors. We saw an opportunity for the farm to serve as a connecting point for our immediate community through neighbor meetups and potlucks. Next, please. We connect to the larger community through our biannual farmers and vendor market. These markets bring together neighbors, people from Bradford, plus tourist dollars from near and far. It's also given us the opportunity to raise money and collect for the Bradford Helping Hand Food Bank. It's about the interpersonal connections, the environment, and the economy all coming together. And it's about the families, fun, and kids, and jumpy castles. It is at these markets where I've appreciated the opportunity to meet up with a number of you. Next, please. As a business, we have made intentional decisions to support our local fellow businesses. We promote and offer products from our neighbors Ernest Cider and Hollow Marsh Wineries. Our short-term stays have advertisements and coupons for local restaurant, including the 1812 Grill House down the road and Brick and Fire. And when the hotels are complete at Highway 488 and Walmart, we will welcome the opportunity to partner with them for accommodations. Next, please. We see an incredible future for our family and our farm here in Bradford, and we thank you for helping make this possible. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for the history on this. It was wonderful to hear that. So thank you for being a 7th generation. I'm looking forward to the 8th generation coming soon to farming. Okay, so this is the public presentation now, so I'll ask if you gentlemen want to go sit, and I'll ask the members of the public are now invited to address council and provide any comments and any questions. Ask questions. Please provide your name and speak directly into the microphone. If residents have prepared a written submission that they are reading from, please submit it to the clerk upon completion of your presentation. So I will now invite the public up to see if anybody would like to comment on this application. So just state your name.
My name is Ron Weening. I'm also a resident on the 3rd Line, right at the intersection of 5th Side Road and 3rd Line. I've lived on the road for almost 60 years, not quite, but, and have known the Mills for that entire time and absolutely fully endorse what they're proposing. Have been to the event center a couple times for a funeral and just some neighborhood gatherings, and have no objections whatsoever. Would love to see it go forward.
Thank you, Ron, for those comments. Appreciate that. I will ask other members of the public to step up, state your name.
Good evening. My name is David Gangle. I live on the property just to the east of Tom. As a neighbor, Tom is a very hospitable. Tom and his family are very hospitable to us. They've invited us over. We've been to his facility many times. We fully endorse whatever direction he would like to take the property. I think it's an excellent opportunity to ensure that both the agricultural aspect and as well as bringing the community together in a multicultural, multifaceted way is the way to go. And so we look forward to his success in the future with regards to that. Thank you.
And thank you for those comments. Appreciate that. I'll ask further representatives from the public if they'd like to comment further on this application. I will call a second time for further comment from the public. And I'll call a third and last time. All right, seeing no further comments from the public. There was no questions for the public, so council, now you're invited to ask questions. So I open up to council. Deputy Mayor Sandu.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to begin by thanking Ms. Lan and the applicant's consultant for the presentation, and Mr. Mills, your presentation. As the Mayor said, it's really good to see that the farming is passed on generation to generation when, especially times like this, people are getting out of farming and for obvious reasons, and you need other options to carry on, where you can carry on the agriculture side of it, but also earn a living through something else, and I'm supportive of that. I do have 2 questions for clarification. In the presentation, it was mentioned occasional farmers market. How does one decide when you're going to have a farmers market, or what drives that occasional? Is it going to be every weekend, or is it going to be once a month? What drives that? Second one I have is about the short-term accommodations. Short-term is what? A night? So you're encouraging people not to drink and drive and they can stay over, or short-term is people renting week at a time and it becomes like a hotel type of thing. Other than that, I'm in favor of what you're looking to do, but I do have these 2 concerns.
So I can invite the applicant back up if you want, or you can address all the questions at once. You might as well sit there if you're going to. You can address these 2 questions right now if you'd like to, sir.
Thanks for the questions. Currently, the markets are a biannual thing, a spring and a fall market. Straight up, I haven't considered more than that. At this point, I think we're probably going to limit it to it's not going to be a constant thing. At this point, we'll probably limit it to, I would say, once a month at the most. But currently, it is a biannual thing, spring and fall. Oh yes, the short-term rentals. Your question around that is, what's the definition of short-term? For us, it ties in with the wedding event space. Yes, absolutely. People, oftentimes the couple getting ready, that kind of thing, and then staying the night. We also make it available through other short-term rental platforms. And that is as people book it. Does that answer the question?
Excellent, thank you. I will ask Councillor Ferragini next to comment. Questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for coming today. I've been to your place. I've got to see the farmers market. I enjoyed it. I went to an event there and enjoyed that as well. From what I see, from what you've presented, I like everything on here. We have approved event centers on other agricultural pieces, so I don't see an issue with that, especially the way that I've seen it being run. And then the extra pieces that you were asking for, the orchard processing, that all ties into agricultural, so I have no issues with that. I think it's great. I think it's a great idea the way that you're utilizing your farm and it's bringing people there. I do have issues with the short-term accommodation. I'm not sold on that. I don't think we have anything that's, any other agricultural land that has requested that. I know with accessory dwelling units, they are trying to use that in urban areas right now, and the province is working on actually extending that to rural areas, and it may come to a point where you can put a couple of units on your property, but do we really need to give permission for short-term accommodations? Because it sounds like an Airbnb to me. If somebody comes and they want to book it for a weekend or whatever the case may be, that's what it sounds like from your presentation. So it sounds like an Airbnb to me, which we've had issues with, but as stated in zoning for an agricultural piece, I do have an issue with that. I can't support that part of it. Everything else I absolutely love, but I feel that supporting a short-term rental in the zoning aspect of your property opens the floodgates to any other agricultural land who may want to do the exact same thing. So again, with the Airbnb part, I'm not sure how that would work, or even if you have to ask for that. But those are just my comments on it.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I'll turn it over to Councillor Verkuyk, and I've got Councillor Harper and Giordano next.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions, just to comment that I totally support this application. I live one line north of the third line. I've known the family for a long time, and I've had a chance to spend some time there, and I totally support this. Even the short-term accommodation, because I think it blends well with the wedding aspect of it, and it adds more, just more economics to it.
Okay, thank you for those comments. I've got Councillor Harper next, and then Councillor Giordano, and then Councillor Dyke.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Had a bit of a chuckle there when you said what short term is as much as they book it. I like that. You know what? If we had a lot of hotels and tourism popping in here, I'd be totally against it, but we don't. So, you know, you're obviously going to be in charge of your own land, and you know, taking care of care and control of people that do come to there with strict rules. So, you know what? It's buyer's remorse. Buyers would beware, really. So, you know, it's to your own property. The only question I do have is that would you have to implement any type of fire code, renovations and stuff to meet certain requirements right now? Is that something that is already in place, or do you know of that needs to be amended?
No, I understand. So we are currently working with fire department and working with them as part of the building process to address any concerns that they have.
And obviously, nothing would move forward until all that would be met, I guess.
Yes, in communication with fire, they are satisfied that we are good.
Cool, perfect. That's it for me. Thanks so much for bringing this forward.
Thank you for those questions. Councillor Giordano.
All right, thanks for the presentation. Couple questions, or maybe some clarity. On the short-term rental structures, I think there was a mention earlier in the first presentation that it could be trailers as well as some additional structures. Can you maybe just clarify what type of buildings, or are they multiple unit dwellings, or are they individual trailers or tiny homes scattered throughout the property? Just a little more clarification on that, please.
Sure, I understand. Initial short-term rentals are part of structures that are already on the property. Any further short-term rentals would be in the form of a tiny house, that type of structure, on wheels, something to that effect. Located, and I know the site plan's not up there, but if you've been to my property, long laneway, up the long laneway, there's a bit of a forested area by the fields. These would be located by the forested area. I know there was a point made about farming property and so forth. We're not taking farming agricultural land out of use to accommodate these. They are, back to my point originally, people like getting to the middle of nowhere, like connecting with nature, and that's kind of what we're bringing these connecting with.
Okay, no, it's great answer. So here's my concern with the additional structures, or I guess the short-term rentals, is that you've got fantastic intentions. If there's other property owners that don't have those same intentions, and they use this as a case study to turn around and just start slapping trailers everywhere and housing people, or putting, I'm okay for ADUs and farming, in agricultural areas. I think that's a great idea and a great alternative. My concern is that, does this set a precedent if we open up this in this area for allowing anybody or anybody else to make the same applications without the great intentions that you have? So that'd be my only reservation. I'd like to talk a little bit more about it. And then my other question or comment, and this one's when we spoke, I think it was last year, the last time we had a conversation, which really touched me, was your generational living on the property and having an additional home for, let's say, your children to live within the property. Is that still on the table, or is that a future consideration as well? Because at the end of the day, having the multiple generations living on the one property is something that I would definitely like to support. I'm just curious about how that all fits into this.
Sure. Yes, that could be my children on the property in some way, shape, or another. We're still figuring that out, or they're still figuring that out. We're all still figuring that out. I'm sorry, I know that doesn't fully answer your question. Could you ask it again? What does it?
So, if in the future you were to come forward with an application to either subdivide the lot or add an additional dwelling unit for,
right,
a member of the family, or how does that affect what we're looking at here today? Because I know that was a big consideration in the past when we spoke.
Sure. So the short-term dwelling units that we have proposed, that is, again, for short-term. And we don't have other plans to do another living structure on the building, on the property.
All right, thank you for those questions. I have Councillor Dyke.
I just want to say thank you for the presentation. Adding that personal and the history of your family on the land, it's really nice to see, because you have the drive, you have the investment, you're bringing investment to our community, and as you showed our hotels and our local restaurants and the restaurants in the area, we have lots to be thankful here in our community. We have these farms, are gorgeous farms, and a lot of people that come up from the city, and they're blessed to have that opportunity to have a wedding there. And I know the Van Lukes on the 13th line have quite a few. They're pretty well booked all summer, and I'm glad there's other venues that can bring people to our community, and it promotes our community, but provides a great venue for weddings. And being as somehow related to that industry, the wedding industry, we're lucky that we can offer something in our community. So I just want to say great presentation from your consultants, and the consultants, when we see these documents, it's very dry, but to see the personal and the aspect of it really adds to the presentation. I want to thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I've got Councillor Scott next.
I'll be really quick. I just wanted to say I think first and foremost it's a beautiful property, and you shared a wonderful family heritage story, and your plans make a lot of sense to me. They're contained to what you think is manageable, and I think we can point to a lot of similar examples, whether in St. Jacobs or Prince Edward County, even a few in Innisfil, where there's a little bit of a short-term rental to accommodate the wedding and a bit of agritourism. And I love diversifying more streams of income for a farm, so I think this sounds like a home run to me, and thank you for the presentation to present it tonight.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for those comments. Any further? All right, seeing none at this time. Mr. Mills, I want to thank you, number one, for following through in the application. Since 2021, you've been working towards this. I know it's time-consuming, costly, the whole bit, and I thank you for doing that. This is going to be an opportunity for many families to celebrate, enjoy not only weddings, farmers markets, and short-term rentals, because you know what, I absolutely support that also. I've seen your property, I've seen the housing style, I've been able to go through the markets. I think it's fantastic. It's what our community needs. It's an excellent opportunity. I can tell you right now, my son came to me and he said, Dad, we got to buy some property up north. He said, I'm telling you, we just have to put sea cans on there. He said, people are renting it for $300 a night. And I said, what a great business opportunity. So you're on the right track, and I think it's an excellent opportunity. And I'll tell you, many families will come and enjoy that, because you are right by the nature. You'll see you've got the forested area and everything. So beautiful, beautiful setup. I look forward to having this report come through from council, from our staff, and moving this forward, because I think you've caught a great idea there. So thank you so much for following up on this. Appreciate that. Further comments or questions from council? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move on. Further action. Council will not make a decision on this matter tonight, but will receive the staff report for information. The matter will be referred back to staff for further recommendation report at a later date. Our recommendation, Council, that the report PLN 2024-37, titled Public Information Meeting, Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment 4023, Line 3, D14-24-01, for the lands legally described as part of Lot 3, Concession 2, be received, and that the comments received in writing and or made at the public meeting be received, and that the Office of the Community Planning consider the matters raised and address the same in its future report. Moved by Councillor Kike, seconded by Councillor Scott. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, follow-up. It is recommended that all comments or questions on planning applications be submitted in writing to planninginfo@townofpwg.com. Written submissions are not required at a public meeting, but can be made at a later date and will be accepted up to the date that council makes a decision on the matter. Written submissions on planning matters will not be read at the council meeting, but will be forwarded to planning staff for consideration and or response. Council will be apprised of all public comments received prior to making a decision on the application. If you wish to receive information on a specific planning application or to be notified of an upcoming meeting related to a planning matter, please email planninginfo@townofbwg.com. I will now adjourn the public meeting. It is 8:39, or 7:39, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Wow, I was almost ready for bed. All right, recommendation of the public planning meeting hereby adjourn at 7:39. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sandu and seconded by Councillor Ferragini. All in favor? Carried, thank you. We'll reconvene the public meeting, our regular meeting at 9 or 7. Oh my God. Let's go 7:40. I'll be in bed before you know it. All right, deputations. I have 7.1 Stormwater Utility Funding Strategy. Ilmar, you're up. And Andrew Kerr, thank you so much.
Thank you to you, my worship and councillors here tonight. We are here to speak to the strategy for your stormwater funding program. And this is a project that was kicked off in July with your staff, and we're here to give you a quick update. Next slide, please. So what is a stormwater funding strategy? The stormwater utility funding strategy will accomplish 4 objectives. Review current and potential future costs for maintaining a sustainable stormwater system. Recommending funding levels and reserve targets for long-term sustainability. Engaging the community on alternatives, impacts, and benefits while considering feedback and concerns. And assessing and recommending funding model, a funding model that will be fair, affordable, and simple to understand and deliver. Next slide, please. Why have a stormwater funding strategy? Asset management, as defined by the town's asset management plan and the corresponding targets for levels of service, are what drive the funding requirements for sustainability. Compliance with regulatory requirements related to stormwater management are also a priority. The Consolidated Linear Infrastructure Environmental Compliance Approval Document, as issued by the Ministry of Environment, is what the town will use to outline its requirements for stormwater systems, including operations and maintenance and long-term sustainability of those assets. Cost effectiveness, to identify required works early on rather than be reactive to major problems. A proactive plan, including annual programs and funding, is more effective than a complaint-based system. Flood mitigation as well, to prepare for more frequent, intense storm events. The recent event of this last summer, July 16th, where the City of Toronto experienced a nearly 100 millimeter storm event, which is equivalent to a 1 in 100 year storm, is something that we're seeing more frequently and that we need to be prepared for. As well, public health and safety protection from pollutants and effects of unmaintained pipes, ponds, catch basins, etc. And resilience to impacts of climate change and protection of the environment. Next slide, please. What does the town's community consist of? In looking at the community profile, there are essentially 4 categories of characteristics in the community. The Hall and Marsh community, which is largely controlled and managed by the Drainage Act to ensure that the stormwater systems and water levels are controlled and maintained. The urban communities, which are our conventional communities with cross sections, with sidewalks, with culverts, with sidewalks and urban sections that rely on stormwater collection and pipes to distribute them and bring them to collection systems and stormwater ponds for discharge. These urban communities are more intense and land use is more active and there's more risk of flooding. And then the rural communities are areas where we have ditches and culverts and larger spaces, but also need for moving the water that's collected both from the private lands as well as along the roads and rights of way. And then the Bradford Highland farming lands are the areas that are outside of the marsh but are also farmed. And these areas that may not need direct water management or Drainage Act requirements, but will still need to be included in a stormwater management system. Our assets are based on 5 classes as based on your asset management plan. And there's a total of about $1.1 billion in assets, of which 17% or $184 million represent the replacement costs for your stormwater systems. This will require funding in the long term, both for maintenance and replacement and ultimate expansion. Next slide, please. So next steps for the study as we initiate is to continue with data collection and analysis, complete our community outreach program, which includes web promotion and online surveys, our first community engagement public information center #1, which is planned for the latter part of September, and a second engagement session would be in the latter part of November 2024, as well as the evaluation and community feedback considerations and discussions based on the information we gathered from those sessions, as well as interviews with staff and council. Once we consider all the final feedback and look at the evaluation of the various alternatives for funding and for cost distribution, as well as long-term sustainability and recommending reserve programs, we would then bring a final report back to this council for presentation in January 2025 for final approval and future recommendations. So with that, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate you keeping it on schedule. Questions? Councillor Scott.
Just one question. How will this relate and protect marsh farmers who already pay into the drainage system we have? I will volunteer that I think the answer should be they should be entirely separate from this.
Thank you for the question through you, Your Worship. That is why we've identified 4 classes or four groups of users or of communities within the town, and definitely the farming community through the Municipal Act or the Drainage Act should be considered very specifically with regards to what they're already contributing to, how they're managing the system, and that their management is within their watershed, and that is probably something that definitely would not be related to an additional charge.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Verkuyk next, and then I've got Councillor Dykey.
Recently I saw a presentation at an Ag Knowledge forum put on by the Nottawasaga Futures, and there were a few municipalities that are ahead of us on this, and there were some negative implications for agricultural lands in more urban areas like Brampton or something like that. So they were going on a square footage where the agricultural land is basically permeable. It's not causing infrastructure that needs to be created. And the ditches in rural areas are basically to keep the roads drained and to divert the water away from the road. So I just want to make sure that we don't put any negative implications on our highland farms.
Thank you for that. I've got Councillor Dykey next.
Well, in your presentation, I liked the key word that you mentioned about culverts. You know, we have a lot of culverts that are 40, 50 years old in some of these subdivisions, and funding them for the residents is quite an expensive venture and impact to the residents that that have paid taxes so long on these homes in a rural area. And I just hope that through your study that we could get some grants in the future as well, some funding from the federal or provincial or federal, whatever's available, and then we have everything in place. And as the weather changes and the frequent storms and the volume of storms that we've seen in the last little while, we have to keep this flow flowing as best we can. So I'm glad we're being proactive than reactive.
Just to reiterate, this presentation is all about what we're going to be doing and going out to the public and getting all that feedback from everyone. So we look forward to seeing a lot of that data. And like Councillor Verkuyk said, there's a few communities ahead of us, so we'll be able to understand some of the niches that they ran into. So I've got Councillor Dehaney next.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you again for the presentation. My question is, how are we going to ensure fairness for those who have, say, bigger properties, and of course with the water runoff on the pavement, how are we going to ensure that those people pay more compared to a person with a smaller property? Also, I know that we're still at the beginning phase, of course, of this. So with set fees, how are we going to determine the set fees, also based on property size? Do you have any ideas so far?
Certainly through you, my worship, the modeling that we use, there's a number of various financial models as well as engineering models to look at impermeable surfaces, to look at area, to look at distribution of costs that create an equitable sense of ownership and of contribution towards the system. The ultimate goal of the program, as we bring this information through to the public information sessions and for the community, is to get the feedback on what these models could look like, how the costs could be distributed, what the impact would be per household, per resident, per area, and then receive that feedback and work with the community to try and find a solution that's equitable, that has a sense of distribution, but also meets the funding needs of the long-term costs for the town.
One more question, thank you. So for those persons that are practicing green, because of course we try to encourage that, will there be some initiative, some discounts for those people that are practicing green, and also to encourage others also to go green? Will there be any discount in mind, for that as well?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are programs in other municipalities where there's either initiatives or opportunities for some sort of credit system. So definitely those opportunities will be explored and the various options presented as part of our work. And depending again on what the community is looking for, we'll tailor solutions that will meet where what the demands are.
Okay, so any further questions or comments from council? All right, seeing none, I thank you very much. There's no recommendation here that I have to follow up on, so thank you for the presentation. And we thank you. Thank you, council, for the questions. Look forward to the program moving forward. Okay, we are on to open forum. Madam Clerk, anybody signed up for open forum?
No, Your Worship. There's no participants for open forum this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. We move into adoption of the minutes of the committee and the committee whole recommendations. So I have 9.1, adoption of regular council minutes. Recommendation of the minutes of the regular council meeting dated June 18, 2024 be adopted as printed. Moved by Councillor Dykey, second by Councillor Harper. Questions or concerns with that? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. We're on to 9.2, adoption of special council minutes. Recommendation that the meeting of the special meeting of council dated June 25th, 2024 be adopted as printed. Mover second for this, please. Moved by Councillor Dehaney, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sandu. Questions or concerns with this? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Correspondence. We are into correspondence 10.1. We have the Associated Municipalities of Ontario, the AMO, and the Ontario Medical Association Joint Health Resolution Campaign. So I'm going to ask Councillor Scott, can you speak to it? You'll move it? Okay, sorry. Moved by Councillor Scott then. Seconded by Councillor Verkuyk. Questions on this? Great.
I think the resolution says it, but it's worth highlighting that Ontario's healthcare is in crisis. 2.3 million Ontarians don't have a family doctor. We're seeing emergency room closures, particularly in rural communities. And I think most alarmingly, nearly half of our existing family docs are looking to retire in the near future. So I think adding our voice to AMO's resolution, I know a few of us are going to AMO's conference at the end of the month, is important because we've been working to attract more family health teams, working with Southlake and the South Simcoe Northern York Region Family Health team led by Gail Seddon. And we'd love to see the hospital come to Bradford, quite frankly, but we definitely need more local health care in our community. And we might be a community, despite having healthcare needs, that's actually comparatively doing well. Rural and northern communities, I think, are particularly struggling. And I'm almost afraid that we've sort of, as a society, given up that we should have excellent healthcare. We have a lot of hallway medicine. We have a lot of nurses, nurse practitioners, and doctors who are quite stressed, and patients who are frustrated but almost think this is the new normal. So after probably 30 years worth of promises that we'd fix Canadian healthcare, it's not gotten any better. In fact, it's got worse. So the more we can do at a local level to promote the fact that this is an urgent need and the public deserves high quality healthcare close to home, the better it will be, because I think all levels of government recognize the need, but we need to start seeing the results and putting urgency behind it.
Great point, and I think you must have watched CBC last night, National News, because it was on there about healthcare and how critical it is in the northern regions, and how they talked about Blind River, Thessalon, Sault Ste. Marie, that region there, where it was they were closing emergency rooms, and there was last-minute arrivals of doctors at the last second, which was costing all Ontarians tons of dollars to get them there at the last minute. So just to keep the emergency rooms open. So not hard to support this 100%. So like Councillor Scott said, we're going to AMO. We'll be advocating for this through the Ontario Medical Association, and we've done lots of work with our local physicians and everything in our community. So we want to continue that advocacy on our part to make sure that we gain the support, work as hard as we can to gain doctors and family physicians for sure, because there is a pandemic out there. I'm going to say it. So I've got Councillor Dehaney first, and then I've got Councillor Harper next.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, as a healthcare worker myself, working in the field for over 16 years, I see the challenges that, you know what I mean, we are facing in healthcare, the long wait list, you know, for long-term care, and also different critical, you know, clients that need care. And of course, sometimes to get a family doctor, the long wait list, right? Unless you're, maybe you have your family doctor for years, right? Then maybe you can add your children on it, but sometimes it's a long wait. So definitely I do support this as well. And yeah, looking forward to AMO conference coming up.
So thank you. Councillor Harper?
Thanks, Mayor. You know, I know you'll be pushing for this, and it'll be pretty much a hot topic at the AMO. You know, provincial government's definitely not made it, you know, quite aware that you know, federal government's capital gains taxes is putting stress on a lot of corporations, and doctors mostly actually create corporations, and it's not making it easy for them to actually make a living through this, and then they're actually just picking up their business and leaving the country or leaving the province. So when we're already in short supply, and you see a capital gains tax that's taking away from one of our most crucial aspects, which is healthcare, physicians and doctors, I think that should be stressed urgently at the AMO as well. This falls short in regards to correspondence, because I think they're just being polite, and even though they're asking for the doctors, they got to make a living too, because they take on a lot of stress. It's not easy being a doctor. I mean, they make one false call and getting sued. So, you know, they got to have some reward for the risk that they're taking as well, plus all the education that they've had to endure.
Thank you for those comments. Okay, further comments or questions here? So I think we've got it. I've got a recognition here that the Council received the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, and the Ontario Medical Association Joint Health Resolution Campaign for information. But I'd like to say that we actually support, the Council support the resolution as written. Okay, so we add that into the. So I'm going to actually say as amended, a friendly amendment. So I can ask the two mover and seconders if they support that. Yeah, thank you.
Your Worship, if you can clarify the last sentence of the resolution that's attached is asking to insert the name of the municipality that's short of the doctors. Are we putting Bradford West Gwillimbury, or are we putting something else?
No, Bradford West Gwillimbury. Yeah. We'll support Bradford West Gwillimbury first, and then, but we will talk about the rural area, because the rural is costing everybody. I mean, there's no offense about it. It's a shortage, and we're going to go there and fight for Bradford, West Gwillimbury, and Ontario in general. We're going to fight for doctors, and hopefully we get our healthcare system improved.
I wanted to make sure, since you guys were generous.
You're more generous here first, though. Councillor Fermanagh.
Since we are supporting it and we're doing the resolution as is, does it not need to be sent out to everybody as well? All of the municipalities of AMO, so that way we show that we're on board?
I think AMO is going to send that out, right? I will tell you what, if we, I take that as a yes, as another amendment. We will draft it so we go out that we support this, so we can send it to the Premier and our MPP and all 444 municipalities in Ontario. I think that's I was thinking AMO was going to distribute this through, but we should make sure of that ourselves. So, good suggestion. So, okay, is everybody okay with that? We will certainly send it to our MPP, Premier, Sylvia Jones, our Minister of Health. So we'll have a list of them, but certainly we'll send out to the correct people. Okay? You got that? All right. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, that's 10.1. We're on to staff reports. And I'm at 11.1, procurement activities, 2024 second quarter. I have a recommendation that the report LEG 2024-5 titled Procurement Activities 2024 second quarter be received for information. Moved by Councillor Ferragini, second by Councillor Giordano. Question, concerns? We have zero activity in here, so it's good. It means that we've stayed right in line with all of our purchasing requirements. So no extra cost to anybody. So all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We are into 11.2, 2024 enforcement activity report. This is a recommendation that the report EFN 2024-7 titled 2024 enforcement activity report January 1st to June 30th be received for information. Moved by Councillor Harper, second by Councillor Verkuyk. Question, concerns with this report? We can see Councillor Harper.
My only question would just be to get clarification when the updated one for the pilot project for the ASEs will be incorporated in this, or will be in the next one, or is that a different department?
I have Robert come up. I can save you the walk if you want. That report will be coming. We'll get an ASC report coming up very soon. So it's not really Robert's. It's a combined effort. It's the corporate services. So it's going to probably come through. Will it come through your department, Vanessa, or yours, Robert? Okay, from Brent, directly from Brent. So that will be coming up shortly. He's got it scheduled, I think, for first one in September. Okay. I know it. Further, Councillor Ferragini.
Thank you. Just a comment. I see some areas we've had increases in calls, which is unfortunate, but I just want to say thank you to you, Rob, and to your staff. It's not an easy job to do, and I know some of the issues that you deal with out there, and I know that the members around this table usually put you in some of those issues too. So I want to say thank you for everything that you guys do.
Yes, thank you very much, because it's been very busy for that department, and we certainly want to thank the folks of that department for all the work they do, because everything has increased dramatically in there. So we thank them all for taking on these concerns for us. Councillor Giordano.
So my biggest concern when I saw this, and it's almost a throwaway line, but if you look, there's a 25% increase in property standards, clean yards investigations. And this is something that really bothers myself and a lot of other residents in the town as well. It's definitely very challenging for the staff to deal with, but it's something that 25% increase, that's significant. And that's something that, you know, whether it's through education, I've been talking with some of the staff to find out what I can do into my ward to try to help neighbors, you know, work with each other to try to deal with this, because it's becoming an eyesore. It's affecting people's quality of life and living next door to some of these properties. So that's something that I want to make it very mindful to everybody here on council. That 25% increase is pretty significant.
Duly noted. Thank you. It is significant. We wish that people would take care of their properties a lot better, but there are a lot of people that do a great job. There's just a few out there that don't, so we'll hopefully impact that with some change. Further to your ask for that ASC report, Councillor Harper, the reason why he's bringing it later, we haven't had the cameras out for a full 4 months, and he wanted to get a good look at for council, but because everybody's wanting to see the data, that he asked if he could bring it earlier, so he's going to bring it in September. Okay, comments?
Just a question, maybe, what's her name? Sorry, what's his name again? Rob. Hi, Rob. So, with the 201 property standard clean yards investigation 25% increase, because I know that I've been sending lots of emails, especially about Ward 1, where Miller Park across from Sears there, and it's continuous, non-stop, and other areas in Ward 1. Do we have any future plan of implementing any penalty at all that could discourage others from dumping where they're not supposed to? Like, what can we do now? Because it's becoming even more and more and more. Is there a way that we can maybe do some fines? I know some of the properties are owned by they're private properties. However, town staff still take the initiatives and do clean it, right? And that's basically taken away from other jobs that could have get done by staff, right, looking after another private property. What can we do now to come with a more stricter enforcement, right, to kind of stop that?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Duhaney. That's a great question. So there's a number of different tools in the tool belt that communities can use to address situations whereby we end up with a focal point where people tend to dump there and treat it like it's their own personal dumping ground, so to speak. So in terms of private properties that we have, like complexes, commercial complexes, these types of things, when they find themselves to be constant targets of this, we'll do a variety of different measures. So we'll increase enforcement. We'll speak with the property managers to try to do some exploration of what they could do in terms of them monitoring it better. Maybe it's a case, we've had situations where it's just simple littering. We've had other, and that may be solved by simply just putting up garbage cans or something like that. In some other situations, we've had large piles of debris constantly being piled. We do have the ability to enforce our clean yards bylaw, our littering bylaw, these types of things. The threshold to hold those accountable have to be met in order to do that. But in addition to that, when you reference staff time going into these things, we also have a fees and charges bylaw whereby we can invoice for our time if we're constantly running into these issues. But we try to hold off on that to ensure that that's used in appropriate situations whereby perhaps there's some neglect happening. If we have a property management a property owner not taking it serious or not taking the necessary steps, then we'll look at what tools in the tool belt we have. But we do our best to kind of look at the situation specifically and come up with a strategy, trying to work together with the community. The message we would give to the community is that we all have a part to play. It's 100% unsightly, unacceptable that people feel emboldened to deposit garbage where they do not have permission to do so. I think it's a matter of convenience, if I'm being honest. So education, it plays a large part. It's something that we've talked about in a lot of things that we do with enforcement. So our department will continue to try to work with the community in order to affect change, but we all have a part to play in order to achieve that.
And also I see here 51 noise and nuisance related service calls, and it was 34% decreased. I don't know, how do you come up with these data? Because almost, not every weekend, but majority of the weekends, I do get emails with residents complaining about noise and sound, but I'm seeing here it's been a decrease. Even in my Ward 1 meeting, this was one of the big topic as well, right? People riding their bikes and they're just doing their thing, right? How did we come up with this data stating that it's 34% decrease when almost every single day I'm hearing that noise is a problem in our community?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Dehaney. So with respect to service requests being reported for noise, these numbers reflect what our bylaw enforcement division received. In the event that there are complaints being made after hours, it's likely that those complaints are being submitted directly to the South Simcoe Police, as they are also empowered with the enforcement of that. So in addition to overnight noise associated with amplified music, the traditional noise complaint, we do have commercial regulations, construction regulations. The noise bylaw speaks to a number of different types of noise that traditionally do fall onto bylaw enforcement. But if what you're hearing from your constituents are the types that would be overnight type complaints, those are typically resourced by the South Simcoe Police. Oftentimes, alcohol may be involved in these types of things, and they're better resourced in order to address those types of concerns. So what you see here is the service requests that were asked of the Bylaw Enforcement Division of Bradford. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those questions. Oh, further comments? Councillor Dykey.
I just want to thank you for the report. You know, I know, and I can see just by this list of increases, you know, from where we started and where we are now as we grow. There's no doubt that this department is very busy. When it comes to property standards, you know, we have a lot of tenants. We have a lot of absentees landlords, and that doesn't help the situation. So I know you got to send letters and you got to have the staff, but it's important that, you know, that we continue to stay on these property matters and noise, and I just want to commend your department doing the best you can to stay on top of it all as we grow through the south, through the community.
All right, thank you. Further comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we're on to 11.3, noise exemption application. I have a recommendation that EFN 2024-6, titled Noise Exemption Application 2771, line 11, be received for information, and that the request for exemption under Noise Control Bylaw 2008-083 as amended for amplification of sound music between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. on August 18, 2024 for the private event be approved or denied. So moved by Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Harper. Can you put the approval or denial on? Okay. Approved it is. Okay. Questions or concerns? Go ahead.
I will fulfill my tradition of saying I would love a delegation of authority bylaw, given that tonight 30% of our staff reports are things that I think staff could approve through a process, rather than us sitting as a village council of elders and snoops approving people's parties.
Further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Moving on to 11.4, street party closure and noise bylaw exemption. Recommendation of the report TR-2024-8, titled Street Party Road Closure and Noise Bylaw Exemption Number 2 be received, and that council authorize in principle the road closure of Bartram Crescent on August 31st, 2024 from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. as outlined in report TR-2024-8, subject to the applicant completing all street party terms and conditions to the satisfaction of town staff, and that council authorize an exemption for the noise control bylaw 2008-083 as amended for the application of sound, music and noise caused by the private event on Bartram Crescent between 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Saturday, August 31st, 2024. Moved by Councillor Giordano, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sandu. Question, concerns? Councillor Giordano.
So this gets me super excited because I'm not shy to throw the street party now and then, but this group on Bartram, they're fantastic, residents. They've all moved into this area. They've got young families. The idea is that they've had barbecues in the past, but the road closure is very beneficial to the young children having a safe place where they can hang out and not have to worry about maybe a car coming around the corner really quickly or something like that. So, of course, I'm going to support this. I love the fact that there's another area in my ward that's also doing a street party. I think these things are fantastic. They're great community builders. The police love them. It's just great to have everybody come together. So I fully support this, and I hope everybody else does too.
Councillor Burkike and Councillor Dykey.
Yeah, I'm in support of this as well. Just a question, if someone who lives on that street needs to go to work that night or come home from work, do they still have access to their driveway?
Who would answer that? Anybody on staff or? No. It's staff. Joe?
Through you, Mayor. As far as I know, that there's the road is closed. There's no access, but I'm sure they're neighborly, and there won't be any arguments with getting in and out of their houses.
Yes, the report indicates that everybody signed but one, I think, and they have a fire route in there. So I'm assuming that fire routes access for them to get in and out. So I assume that will be taken care of. But I think we would have heard from many residents prior to that. So, Councillor Dykey.
Well, what I hear, and that last year they did have a barbecue, the neighborhood all got together and had a barbecue, but now, you know, this is structural, you know, they have the fire route and nice to see a younger family subdivisions working together and you know, promoting, you know, and promoting an event, but neighbors getting together and getting along, and that, you know, can provide, you know, a different venue for the children, safe environment for the kids, and all the neighbors coming together and they get to know each other. Because at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people, Bradford's been always a bedroom community, and it's nice to see people get together and get along and do events like this, like Joe did, and these residents, and hopefully we can have more in the future in different areas of town.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Approved. Thank you. And 11.5, the building permit activity report, April 1st to June 30th. Recommendation that the report BLD 2024-3 titled Building Permit Activity Report, April 1st to June 30th, 2024, be received for information. Moved by Councillor Dykey, second by Councillor Harper. Question, concerns? Councillor Dykey.
Just a few comments. I know our chief building official under Willie Wong, he has put together quite a great team that I've seen over the years, and I get a lot of calls from different residents that walk into the building department and they need assistance or help, and we have a great staff in the building department that assists a lot of local residents. It's one thing to have a big corporation or a big builder to have all these plans, but when it's the little mom and pop that has a home and they have to come in to put on a deck or finish their basement, that we have great staff that walks the local residents through it. So it's very important, you know, that we have a great communication with the building and the people that take out the permits. So just wanted to throw that out for our building department.
All right, thank you for that. Further comments or questions? Councillor Harper.
Thanks, Mayor. This is actually just a comment out to the building department as well. It's been a summer of redesigning your garage in Ward 6, and Billy Wong and his team have been really helpful, along with the deputy CAO. So just to say thank you very much. The residents appreciate working with them. It's not easy, especially trying to get a lot of those permits and stuff that, you know, from other third-party utilities, which seems to be a huge problem. So thanks for working with them, especially all the way to the planning area, Thomas Dysart as well. So great work working together in collaboration, and I appreciate all the help for the residents this summer.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Any further comments or questions? Willie, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, both councillors. I know try to enforce the building code requirement, not a popular job, but I always told my staff, try to find some alternative solution, try to help. That's what I've been here for the last few years. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate that effort, trying to find solutions. Councillor Giordano.
Hey, Willie and team. I don't take this as a negative, but I don't want to pump the tires of the staff on this one because the time is money. And so however good you guys are doing, we need better. And so we need faster, we need, you know, this is a lot of issues that when people come forward and you know, and they're trying to do, whether it's somebody trying to build a custom home, or a larger developer, you know, every day matters. And so we can't pat ourselves on the back all the time and say, yeah, we're doing a great job. We need to do better. We need to keep doing better. And these permits, you know, we need to crank them out, right? So I just want to throw that out there.
I'm through you, Mr. Mayor. You know, since I become a CBO, I initiate what they call conditional permit. So I know sometimes site plan take a bit longer to process, but try to help the developer to start the foundation site surfacing. That's what you look at the past 6 years, we've been using a number of conditional permit. Look at the employment land and so on, and the hotel. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Willie, we appreciate that. You have moved into conditional permits. You have taken some changes to the department. Look forward to future changes. Even we get into e-filing in the future, let's try and do e-filing, things like that. I mean, we've made improvements. Let's carry on. You've done a great job, so carry on with those improvements if you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We're on to 11.6, proposed general housekeeping zoning bylaw updates. So recommendation that report PLN 2024-36 titled Proposed General Housekeeping Zoning Bylaw Updates be received for information, and that council directs staff to proceed with proposed town-initiated zoning bylaw 2010-050 updates as amended, as outlined within report PLN 2024-36, and to proceed with public consultation on the proposed updates. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Dehaney. Okay. Questions or concerns with this one? I've got Deputy Mayor first, then Councillor Vergini.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question, maybe for Alan or the author of the report. Would this be the appropriate time or the right avenue? I know there's some outstanding matters that we were going to look at about the home businesses that were not part of the zoning bylaw, but we wanted to look at it when this opportunity came. Is this also that time, or that's going to come at a separate time? Because there's residents that are waiting for that decision from us.
So subject to Alan's thoughts, that is a separate review from this process. Once council does make the decision on a home occupation review, that future bylaw would be brought forward into a consolidated zoning bylaw. So these 4 items that we've identified are separate from home occupations.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Deputy Mayor Sandhu. Yes, so the home occupation zoning review is currently in its 3rd iteration of consultation and refinement. We've been very thankful for the additional feedback received from members of council and the community in the recent past. We feel that the 3rd iteration of the draft amendment reflects those points of feedback as well, and we'll be looking forward to bringing a recommendation report to council on that in the near future. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I had Councillor Fergini next.
Thank you. So in regards to 2 questions here. The heights for the detached accessory buildings. I know that you're doing some housekeeping here and you want to keep it similar to what our neighboring municipalities are doing. However, we're sitting at 3-meter height. When you're talking about a lot of urban development that we have, because lots are so small right now, and when they build an accessory dwelling unit in the back or a shed or whatever the case may be, right now they're maxed out at about 10 feet, and then we're going to up that, which makes it, that could be affecting neighbors' views and their quality of life and the things that we constantly hear all the time. Do we have a lot of people who come in always asking for exemptions on the height when it comes to accessory dwelling units or garages or sheds or whatever the case may be? Because I'm not entirely sure if that's something that we should up based on the density of our urban areas. And the second point was in regards to the residential permissions in the agricultural zoning. You know what, answer the first question first and I'll think of my second question.
So under the current zoning bylaw, detached accessory structures are subject to a 0.6 meter height. If they go to over 3 meters, they're subject to a greater setback from the side yard. As part of the review that we would undertake here, we would look at those setbacks as well. So whether or not if we go to a 4 meter height, do we then need to apply a 1.2 meter setback to all accessory structures? So those are some of the things we'd be looking at.
So setbacks possibly be increased if you want to go with a further height. Okay. And then in regards to the residential, I know that with the permissions in agricultural, we've had issues with, back in the day, of everybody separating 100-acre parcels, so they broke them into 10-acre parcels, and then that's why they put a ban on putting houses on there. So it is what it is. Those have already been severed. This does not affect the severance of agricultural land, correct? That would still say the same. They have to have over 200 acres to split into 100-acre parcels.
Correct. So those provisions we're looking at apply to already existing lots. Provincial and county policy restrict consents in agricultural areas.
Okay, further, Councillor Giordano?
So I'm not going to reiterate what Councillor Ferragini said. I have concerns with the 3 meter increase in height. Someone who lives in a modern subdivision, yeah, it would be very problematic in my opinion. The other thing too is I'm not a big fan of the headline called "Proposed General Housekeeping." I think a lot of members of the public will not identify that, and there's a couple of nuggets of really important information in here that I think needs to be called out properly. So that's just my comment on that. I think this should be either separate, or I don't see this jammed as just a housekeeping. I would like that actually called out, because I think a lot of people would actually have attention on this, knowing that they could read and understand it.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Councillor Kike.
Yeah, I'd like to just say I'm in support of us reviewing all these things, because, like with the heights, they keep having to go to council or to the committee of adjustment to get an adjustment, and it gets approved. So we're just wasting everyone's time. So we should be just consistent. That's what we're trying to do is make, and then people don't have to waste their time.
Yeah, you're right. It's time consuming because it goes to committee of adjustments, and it's costly. It's costly. These are things that, and we're only talking about going to public consultation. We have made a decision. We're just asking to say, do we want to go to public consultation for these issues? So the public will be made fully aware of these issues, and they'll be able to deal with it at that public consultation process. So I have no problem with the way it's done, and I look forward to that public meeting.
One additional on that.
One additional, okay.
And I also like the repeal of this 1967 bylaw or zoning thing, because there's so many other restrictions now. The provincial and county and official plans, things have changed so much in the past almost 50 years. This is a good idea.
I'm going to say I'm appreciative of this coming forward, because we want to clean up these zoning issues, get some consistency out there, and make it a lot easier for people to do their business when it comes to things, whether we're in favor or not to be decided tonight. We're just looking forward to making this a public meeting. So, okay, further comments or questions on this? Okay, seeing none, and I do have a mover and a seconder, correct? I did. Sure. Yeah. Oh, Charlie.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was actually going to hold my comment, because from what I've read, it said it's for informational purposes only. But because I do have a few concerns, but again, it's only for information, right? And it's basically asking council permission to do the consultation. I just want to make sure that there was no decision made in here with the language that was used, so that moving forward, we're like, oh, well, council did, make, because how it sounded as if decisions were made. It kind of confusing a little bit, right? So I just want to make sure that this is just for information purpose only, for it to go to the public for consultation, and then when it comes back, we can have a good debate or more comments. So I'll save it for then, correct?
Just to confirm, council's not making a decision this evening. It's just for staff direction.
Okay, is good. Further comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. On to 11.7. I have a recommendation report, application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. File number D0920-21-04 and D14-21-01. Applicants 2004-62 Ontario Limited, Santarelli, Pro Development and Engineering Services. So recommendation, and I have an amended recommendation, correct? So we amended it a little bit. We got it ready for? I'll read the recommendation, folks, so we can have it on the floor, and then we'll put it up for discussion. There is a small amendment here. So the PLN report, PLN. Can somebody up the size of that? There we go. Thanks. My glasses are good, but all right, that's perfect. Report PLN 2024-38, titled Recommendation of Report Application for Official Plan Amendment and Zoning Bylaw Amendment be received for information. That all written submissions received in regards to the applications and all oral submissions made at the public meeting held on November 21st, 2021 relating to the applications have been taken into consideration as part of the deliberations and final decision. That pursuant to Section 3417 of the Planning Act, no further public notification is required. that the requested site-specific official plan amendment D09-21-04 be adopted, and that the requested site-specific zoning bylaw amendment D14-21-01 be approved in principle for lands municipally known as 5650, 5618, and 5584 Highway 9, with modifications as recommended in report PLN-2024-38, and that the official plan amendment bylaw be presented to council for enactment, and that the zoning bylaw amendment be presented to council for enactment on September 3rd, 2024. And that council pass a bylaw to remove the holding H1 provision at such time that the appropriate development agreements re-executed, including both subdivision agreement and site plan for the development of each individual block. So folks, the changes in there are that it's approved in principle, and that the amending bylaw be presented later on September 3rd. Okay? Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Dehaney. We're up for questions on this one. Is everybody clear with the amendment? They're okay with it? Councillor Dykey? Okay.
Just want to say, just to give you an update, when we seen that presentation by the Mills family, we got an email from, I guess, all the many years of Trisan's construction, and I must say that, with over 500 employees in all the municipalities, I think we all got this email, but I found it on my phone. But at the end of the day, this application hasn't been easy because you're dealing with King Township, York Region, Bradford, and I think this is going on for many years, so I fully support. And it's very difficult for their planning team and for them to put this together. They're on the outskirts, the south end of our municipality, and there's a lot of hurdles to overcome this project, so I'm in support of it.
Thank you for those comments. I've got Deputy Mayor next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick comment. I'm happy to see this come forward. This property, as it mentioned in the report, spans over 2 municipalities, and next week I think New Tech is dealing with this matter at their council meeting, and I'm happy to support it, and I think this is going to clean it up. Thanks.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Verkuyk.
Yeah, I'm in support of it as well. I think it's we have very little frontage on Highway 9, and it's already a commercial area. There's a factory across the road, an auto parts plant. There's a restaurant and gas station next to the property in New Tech. It's just a way to clean the whole area up and take advantage of it.
Further comments or questions? All right. Oh, Councillor Dehaney.
My question is, given that it crosses municipal boundaries, how will the proposed development impact the infrastructure and the services in that area?
Sure thing. Thank you. Through Your Worship to Councillor Duhaney. Certainly the question of providing services to the proposed development is something that has been a significant focus in reviewing the applications. This report this evening focuses on the applications for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, which is essentially to establish the principle of the land use. The question of servicing details will be addressed in a future staff report, subject to Council's determination this evening, would be addressed in a future staff report on the application for a draft plan of vacant land condominium, and that would deal with the overall servicing details. Essentially, through the proposed subdivision of the land, Trisun has proposed to provide a communal stormwater management facility, which would be part of the condominium corporation elements. That same block would provide a communal wastewater treatment facility, and then the individual blocks would be proposed to be serviced by individual on-site wells. So all those matters would be dealt with as conditions of draft plan of condominium approval presented to Council in a future report.
So those weren't looked into as of yet? What if, for example, there are barriers when it comes on to services and infrastructure? How do we plan on dealing with that?
Certainly. Thank you. Through Your Worship to Councillor Duhaney. Yes, those have been reviewed through the applicant submission materials. The ultimate servicing scheme that the applicant will be responsible to design for would be made conditions of the draft plan of condo approval. Town staff and reviewing agencies are satisfied that the serviceability of the lands is feasible at a functional level. The ultimate details of how large the pipes will be, where they will go, what the design of the wastewater treatment plant will be in the stormwater facility, the ultimate design of those items would be made conditions of approval of the future draft plan of vacant land condo. And again, those conditions are under development at the moment, and those would be the subject of a future staff report.
So will there be another public meeting to have the public in the planning process in that next stage? Will there be another one? I know that there was already one in the past, but now that we're talking about a different stage, will there be another one now in the planning process? I believe residents should actually be a part of that process just to ensure transparency and also trust. So I would like to know, will there be another one? Because it's a different process now dealing with that. So.
Certainly through your worship to you, Councillor Duhaney. Point taken in that respect. The applications that were filed on behalf of TriSend included for official plan amendment, zoning amendment, and draft plan of vacant land condo. All three of those applications have undergone public consultation through a statutory public meeting. And so to proceed to a recommendation on the draft plan of vacant land condo at a future date, Council would be within its authority to make a decision on that application separately as the statutory consultation requirement has occurred.
Yeah, so they've had their public meeting in November of 2021. This has been 3 years ongoing, and so look forward to seeing this come forward. I thank Mr. Santarelli and his team for being patient with us and moving forward. This is a tough one, like I think Councillor Dykey had mentioned. We're talking about multiple jurisdictions when it comes to that area. It's difficult, but it is absolutely a perfect spot for commercial industry in that area. It's a highway, it's a major highway, it's a perfect spot for it. So I can't see why we would never support that. I think it's an absolute good one for us and good for Mr. Santarelli. I think, like Mr. Dykey had said, a businessman that's been doing a lot of business, I think way back, I don't want to say it, sir, but quite a very expensive business that he runs. So he does quite a few dollars in business. So great for a lot of his employees living in our community, working near home. Just purchased another business to bring to Bradford, so we look forward to that. So anyways, I'm in full support of this and look forward to seeing that site plan come through in the very near future. Further comments or questions? Councillor Giordano.
Just one quick question. You said commercial, but this is commercial industrial, right? The property. Is there any actual plans for commercial retail in this area?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Giordano, the applicant has indicated potential for a motor vehicle gas bar as well as a lumber yard home hardware type store.
Okay, yeah, I drive past that quite often on the way to work, and that would be very beneficial to the surrounding area. Like there's a lot of homes that are developing, especially in that little Schomburg kind of corner. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of commercial industrial that happens in that space. So I support both, but I definitely would love to see some of that retail commercial brought in. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. See no further comments? All right, all in favor as amended? Carried, thank you. We're on to 11.8. Request for hold removal, Bradford Capital Holdings, Inc. Recommendation that report PLN 2024-42 titled Request for Hold Removal, D14-24-07, Bradford Capital Holdings, Inc., Block 404, Plan 51M-1063 be received for information. And the Council adopt a bylaw to remove the hold H1 symbol from the lands legally described as Block 404, Plan M51 or 51M 1063, such that the removal of the hold H1 provision takes effect upon the execution of the site plan agreement for proposed development of lands. Moved by Councillor Dykey, seconded by Councillor Harper. question, concerns with this one? Just remove the hold. Councillor Ferragini?
So in the report, I see that it says to remove the hold based on the execution of the site plan approval. So are there still options to change the site plan? Is that what the town's going to be working with the developer? Because the one concern I have is, I know we've been wanting units like this, having commercial on the bottom and having upstairs having the units. But based on the location and the way that it's all set up, in the report it actually says 6 commercial units on the first floor, but if you actually look at the site plan, there's 12. They're split right down the middle of the building. There's 12 units, and they're only about 700 square feet each. So what type of businesses are we expecting? Like, the local residents would like to have, you know, something that's easy to walk to, that's convenient, but if you got 700 square feet, what are you putting in there? Are we basically having like accountants, one chair hair salon, a nail place maybe? Is that kind of what we're looking at? Are you going to be able to put restaurants in this place where somebody can go? I just feel that with how small the retail units are, it's almost setting it up for either tight office spaces or basically failure for any kind of, any space that needs more room than that. Are there options to actually open up a couple of the units? Because it looks like the separations are concrete. So I don't know if you were able to break a wall or something where they could actually make it 1,300 square feet and it's a usable space for 1,300 square feet, makes a lot more sense. So I don't know if maybe it's something that you can still have a discussion before approving the site plan, before executing it.
Certainly, thank you through your worship to Councillor Ferragini. From a planning perspective, the zoning bylaw and the site plan control agreement would not be as focused on the number of commercial units per se, but rather the amount of commercial gross floor area. If in the, and this is quite common to see in site plan applications where an architectural site plan drawing may refer to a specific number of commercial units. Certainly having seen different commercial developments proceed, my inference or understanding is that that is a reflection of what is possible and may not reflect how the units are how the space is actually parceled out when occupants would be taking up the space. But certainly the site plan approval drawings are nearing the finish line, so to speak, and so this report is being presented to council with the recommendation that the bylaw be passed and that the holding provision take effect on execution of the agreement, such that in the event that that were to occur sometime between today and September 3rd, it wouldn't delay the issuance of full building permit, such that the development could proceed more expeditiously.
Yeah, so does that answer your question, Councillor Ferragini? Like, the structure's there, they're not changing that. It's basically, it's like Alan said, the square footage, and if they work out to be 4 commercial spaces, 6, 12, whatever it works out to be based on, I think, rentals. In the end, it's whatever they can get in there. So, does it bring any closure? Or?
No, well, I understand that. It's just the way that it, okay, so it could potentially change, because the way that it's laid out, it doesn't look like it can, just because it's all structural, it's all concrete walls and stuff, and even the way that they have the loading areas set up, who's going to be able to use that? So I just wanted to I want to make it successful. That's what I want. I want to see it become a successful space.
Thank you. We all do. Okay, Councillor Giordano.
Yeah, so Alan, I heard your answer, but I'm a little disappointed because I was actually hoping, and I think when they came last time and we talked about this project, I was pretty excited about the fact that this could be, you can have long double long units or double wide units and all that stuff. And if that's not necessarily, to Councillor Ferragini's point, if you got concrete walls and everything else that are structural to deal with, I'm gonna have a problem with this project because, again, we're looking for success and we want to set benchmarks for projects for people to model after. And I can't get excited about this knowing that we're going to have these micro retail units. I need them to be able to expand and to have it in a way where you can have a restaurant that needs 2 or 3 wide in order to accommodate their demographic, or double length if they want to have two sets of store frontages, right? So that this is where, when I saw this now, I started having reservations about it. So I'm really leaning on you guys to help, you know, push that agenda forward to make sure that this does have that ability without it being a, you know, just a hole through a concrete wall. You can't just be a doorway cut. That's not gonna be beneficial to people opening it up and you know, basically having quality retail in there.
Alan?
Certainly, thank you through your worship to Councillor Giordano. And my apologies, perhaps I should have unpacked this as well in the previous response. Certainly do see a couple of notations within the first few pages of the architectural drawings which may be open to some interpretation. For instance, one of the pages refers to 12 commercial units. Going on to the next couple of pages, there are firewalls dividing 6 spaces. And so ultimately how that space would be capable of being divided, we would need to defer to the applicant. I do know that a representative on behalf of the property owner is here, however, not familiar with their specific involvement in this project in particular, in the event that council may wish to look to them for comments as well.
Okay, I've got Councillor Kike next, and then if the applicant wants to talk it over.
Yeah, I will echo what Peter and Joseph are saying. It doesn't look like a great design, but I think we're talking about I think there was a lot of manipulation to get the number of parking spaces reduced to fit on a tiny parcel of land. So they made, I think they're 1,400 square foot apartments. So you only need 1 point something parking spots per those 12 apartments, and then the retail commercial was based on square footage. So then all of a sudden you start changing these things. Now do the parking requirements change, Alan?
Certainly, thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Kike. The parking requirements would not differ based on the number of commercial units. It would be influenced by the commercial gross floor area.
Okay. Great conversation. We look forward to this getting through. Councillor Dykey?
Clarification. These units are going to be condos sold, or this is going to be built by the applicant to rent totally, or are these, or even the commercial and the upstairs can be sold as condos? Like just a quick question.
Certainly, through your worship to Councillor Dykey. The town is not yet in receipt of an application for condominium, draft plan of condominium exemption, and so therefore whether or not the residential units would be condominiumized, so to speak, rests with the applicant based on their determination of whether or not to apply.
Okay. All right. Further comments or questions? Councillor Dehaney.
Thank you, Mayor. I know this is, I don't even know what to vote on. Is the applicant here? Can they explain more on the spaces? What are their intent for those spaces? How do they vision the spaces? What will be there? So that we can make a conscious decision.
Sorry. Good evening, Neil Palmer. I'm with the applicant. I believe most of you know me. So to answer a few of the questions, I believe there's an error in the staff report about the number of commercial units. It should be 12, not 6. But I saw that wasn't in the recommendation, so I didn't think it was a big concern. We've already been before you for the zoning, so the zoning is in place, is approved. We're very close to finalizing the updated site plan drawings to respond to all of the comments we received from staff. Very close as in it might be in this week. Our intention is to file a condominium application. So the tenure would be condominium. So the units would be sold. So there is opportunity there if someone bought 2 units that I guess they buy them prior to us constructing. We could probably eliminate some of the closures, the wall closures, to allow opening of the units subject to fire regulations and whatnot, but that's our intention is to file a condominium application, sell the units, so 12 residential and 12 commercial. And I think that answered most of the questions. Did I miss anything from any of the councillors?
Oh, I think you grabbed it pretty good there. It's good. Any business can get in there, right? It could be a bookkeeper, it could be an accountant. We don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be a restaurant. It could be separate. It's services. We have a lot of home-based businesses that are trying to get out of their home and get into an actual structure. So whether it's a 700 square foot or a 1,400 square foot residential build, or a commercial space, it's a commercial space. So I think it's there. There's 12 of them, and like Neil said, if somebody wants 2 of them, they can expand their business, or 3 of them, or whatever it takes. So this is to remove the hold. So okay, Councilor Giordano.
So I've purchased something like this in the past, where I've purchased a ground floor commercial, residential above, and the issue is the building structure itself had more of a column system for the commercial ground floor. Therefore, I was able to, on assignment, sell my commercial unit to the dentist that needed 4 units, but that took place after construction. So the point is that if you're going to say, oh yeah, maybe we can change the walls post-construction, that's like businesses turn over, you have new people coming in and out. I just feel like having a different design for the commercial that allows for that expansion. You can build firewalls out of anything. It doesn't have to be concrete, right? So again, the disappointment is that you're basically saying, well, come early, buy them early, and decide what you're doing up to this point. But in 5 years, 10 years from now, what are we stuck with, right? Whatever somebody purchased and whatever you designed around. So I like the flexibility so somebody can eventually expand their business. Not maybe they only need 1 or 2 units in the beginning, and in the future they want a 3rd or 4th. But with this design, it may not allow for that to take place. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you for that. Further comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? How many? Hands up, please. I need to see hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. In favor. Passed. Thank you. On to 11.9, recommendation for application of official plan amendment for zoning bylaw amendment, file number D14-23-16, draft plan of subdivision, file D12-23-12, for lands must be known as 53, 39, 31, and 23 Danube Lane, and 735 and 743 Simcoe Road. Recommendation that the report PLN 2024-35, titled Recommendation Report for Applications for Official Plan Amendment, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, and Draft Plan of Subdivision for lands must be known as 53, 39, 31, and 23 Danube Lane, and 735 and 743 Simcoe Road be received. That the official plan amendment, file D09-23-01 for the 0.07 hectares of land located within the eastern boundary of Lot 15 in Concession 5 be adopted as recommended herein. That proposed zoning bylaw amendment application, file D14-23-16, for the lands located in blocks 101, 103, and 112 in Registered Plan 51M-1138 and part of Lot 15, Concession 5, be approved as recommended herein. And that the proposed draft plan of subdivision application, file D12-23-12, be given draft approval subject to the conditions included in attachment 5.8 of report PLN-2024-35, including that draft approval lapse after 3 years if a subdivision agreement is not executed and final approval is not achieved within the time period. That pursuant to section 3417 of the Planning Act, Council adopts that no further public notification related to this zoning bylaw amendment is required. That's it. All right, mover and second, put this on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Dykey. Questions or concerns with this report? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor? Sorry, I got to see hands again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, carried. Thank you. All right. 11.10, special occasions permit application, Bradford Greenhouse Gallery, Garden Gallery. Recommendation that report CLK-2024-9, titled Special Occasion Permit Application, Bradford Greenhouse Garden Gallery, be received, and the council designate Fashion in Bloom as a municipal significant event for the purposes of obtaining a special occasions permit, SOP, from the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. Moved by Councillor Dyke, seconded by Councillor Scott. Question concerns with this one? Look forward to this event happening. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, 12, staff reports. Seeing none? Okay. Moving into 13, committee minutes and recommendations. That the following committee minutes and recommendations, items from the advisory committees be received and approved and may be considered. So would any member like any of them pulled? We have 13.1.2, 1.2. We have 13.2 and 13.3. Anybody like? Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'd like to pull 13.3.3, please.
Okay. That's it? Okay, so may I ask that the committee minutes and recommendations in item 13.1 to 13.3, save and accept 13.3.3 be approved. You want to pull that one? Oh, right. Okay, so, yeah, let's go back then. I'll just read it again. So save and accept. So that the committee minutes and recommendations, items 13.1 to 13.3 inclusive, be received and approved. Save and accept 13.33 and 13.35. All right, so we have two of them that were pulled for further discussion. And do I have a mover to seconder for this? Moved by Councillor Dyke, seconded by Councillor Scott. All in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to 13.33. Councillor Scott.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to propose an amendment to this. I'm very happy, thank you to the Traffic Community Safety Committee for dealing with the pedestrian crossing at St. Marie of the Incarnation Catholic School. I think these are really good options. I thought a raised crosswalk could work here, but this is the simpler, more cost-effective solution, and I think it will make a real difference. Colburn Street has a couple of traffic safety issues, and this deals with one of the two. The other is speeding, particularly north of Britannia, up towards Deset. And Colburn, like some of the older roads, Britannia or Fletcher nearby, are wider, so on-street parking doesn't really provide any sort of natural speed deterrent. So what I would like to do is use the idea that we're adding bollards to the pedestrian crossing at the school to add up to 3 more bollards for speed mitigation along the stretch of Colburn from Britannia to Deset. Most of that area is a community safety zone between the school and Lions Park anyway, and the residents have made clear on this street that they really want to tackle speeding as well as the crosswalk safety. So I see this in line with what we've talked about in the past in terms of tackling things holistically, even in advance of the TMS, and I'm hoping, I think it's about $1,500 that this would cost to do, and it's one nice, clean intervention to do both the crosswalk and the speeding at the same time. So I hope council will support it, and I think the clerk has the wording of the amendment as well.
Further comments or discussion on this? Councillor Giordano and then Councillor Ferragini.
So, you know, in the past when we had this committee, it was considered a committee that was based on data. But I've said it, and you repeated it. A lot of people have talked about it. The holistic approaches you cannot overlook, and the fact that you went and spoke to the residents, similar to what Harper did with Northgate, similar to what I did with Blue Dasher before I was on council, that really matters because you're literally getting the insight to match with the data. And so those bollards are very cost effective and will have an impact. I'm on Colbert quite often, and so anything I can do to help support that area, and again, I'm glad that you brought that forward because it is a community safety zone, both where the school is and then just down the street with Lions Park. So it makes perfect sense. And sometimes it's just right on the cuffs of the data, and you have permanent or semi-permanent kind of speed mitigations in place currently. The bollards are more of a physical one that people will see. So I totally support it.
Thank you. Councillor Ferragini.
Unfortunately, I wasn't at the last traffic meeting. I wasn't able to attend. However, from my understanding, this wasn't actually discussed as part of Colburn. So the updated numbers, when we talk about data and everything that we do as a committee, the discussions that happen as a committee, those recommendations come to council. So when something is added after at council, I'm not a big fan of that. I think it should be discussed at the committee level, and that's when the recommendations come forward. So because of that reason, I can't support this. I don't like it when it's dropped last minute kind of thing. I think it should have been discussed at the committee level.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Councillor Harper and then Councillor Dykey.
Just to be fair and to the point, we did discuss the north end of that at the committee, but we were held off because there was semi-permanent kind of like speed measuring devices or that were put there. But there was a recommendation that if those did move, bollards should go in place there. So we did have a good discussion. The numbers were presented to us. I'm sorry that that wasn't communicated to you. So it was discussed. It was actually discussed throughout the committee. So I'm happy with this recommendation as well.
Councillor Dykey.
I see Chair Ferragini's point of view, but saying that, you know, I can see we all don't like to see things drop last minute, but my concerns, I'm going to support it because there's no doubt, you know, we talk to residents and know better any situation the residents living there that communicate with us know the best. At the end of the day, they see it, they live it every day. They see the cars speeding and all the traffic situations. My question here is, with this new committee of council and disbanding that, my question to our mayor is, where we're going to go with this, dealing with the small issues to council with this new committee? Like that's my concern. We had a subcommittee that dealt with a lot of people that came to the meeting. They spoke on it. We listened. We put the data together. My concern is, as a group, how is this going to come together in the future? That's my concern, because there's still a lot of streets that haven't been addressed in Ward 1, Ward 7, Ward 6. There's still more streets to be done, and I want to make sure our residents have that opportunity at this new committee on the 4th of the month, that we can still deliver what we need to for the people elected us.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. It's a strategic initiatives committee, and it combines the projects committee and the traffic and safety committee. So it's going to come to the same committee. It'll come the same way. So no issue there. Councillor Dehaney.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to support this. Reason being, community safety is our #1 priority, and anything that we can do to help to mitigate some of the issues that we're having in our community. So I'll definitely support it.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Well, thank you, everyone. I just wanted to reply to Councillor Ferragini's comments. And the notion that this is adding something in last minute. I first raised this concern the week I was elected in 2020 with Gary Lamb when he was in your chair or in your former chair as chair of the Traffic Safety Committee. And that's where we came with the digital radar sign, extending the community safety zone, hiring a new crossing guard at the pedestrian crossing at Maria of the Incarnation. When I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Councillor Giordano had asked to look at the crosswalk. I had emailed committee members of the former Traffic Safety Committee to say, can we also look at the entire street? And I had suggested that the residents, and I'll give a shout out to Catherine Booth in particular, were asking for speed bumps at the north end of the street. So I did that in advance of the committee meeting. As Councillor Harper says, there was some discussion there, and both the residents and the committee had said, maybe if not speed bumps, at least bollards could be looked at. When I saw the recommendation that it wasn't in there, I figured I would reach out to the committee, ask why it wasn't in there. Basically, everyone said, actually, I think it could go in there, so I'm moving it as amendment today. But in response to the notion that it's a last-minute addition, to my mind, it's something I've been asking for 4 years, every step of the way.
Okay, thank you. Further comments or questions? All right, so we have an amended recommendation here, and I'll read it, that the council approve the implementation of the U-turn restrictions between Scanlon Avenue and Porter Street and Natalie Court, the installation of pedestrian-related signage on approaches to pedestrian crossings. Option 3, use line markings and bullers to create a pinch point and daylight zone around the existing POX, and the council requests staff to investigate costs associated with removal of the sidewalk on the west side of Colburn Street, north of Scanlon Avenue. And that council requests staff install up to 3 bullards from Britannia Avenue to intersections of Dissette Street along Colburn Street to mitigate speeding concerns. It's one question. Go ahead.
Do we need to say and to relocate the digital signage? That will get moved, right? We're not going to keep both, right? Just want to make sure.
Yeah, they'll relocate it somewhere. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we are on to 13.35. Recommendation that council approve the following. So, Councillor Herbert.
Thanks, Mayor. When this report came to traffic committee the last and final traffic committee, it was actually one of the reports that was said that it would come to us after installing and approving the west speed humps. I was quite shocked to see that all the work that definitely needed to be here. It's something that has been reiterated by hundreds of parents, and especially regarding the school at this 3-way intersection and off Fletcher as well. There's still some work to be done. When I read the recommendations here, I'd like to take out the red curb painted part. With my extensive conversations with bylaw in regards to this, and it's not because one resident talks about their property being devalued or anything like that. I just don't think that if we put it in right now with the signage going in there, the signage itself will give authorization for bylaw enough to actually enforce it, whether there's a red curb or not. So I'd like to maybe just leave the red curb out, and in case that the signage doesn't work, we do have that extra step in case we need to use that for a pilot somewhere down the line. So that's what I'd like to strike that from this amendment. And if anybody would like to second
Excellent.
that.
So who would like to second that? But Councillor Giordano will second that. So it's just removing the curbing, the third bullet point, that curbing be painted red on North Gate to denote locations of parking and no parking. So that's just to remove that whole statement. So I will read the recommendation. Any further comments or questions about this? Councillor Giordano?
I was actually looking forward to the red curb just because we really don't have that. But I definitely appreciate the concept of, you know, instead of going all in, let's do this. And if it works, then we don't need to go to that extreme measure. But knowing that we have that in our back pocket, it's actually a smart idea. And then that way, you know, we don't have to execute it unless it's absolutely needed. So.
Excellent. Okay. Further comments or questions? So that council approved the following: that the parking be permitted on the west side of Northgate Drive from Archer Avenue to Noble Drive, currently alternating. That no parking, no stopping be designated on the east side of Northgate Drive from Archer Avenue to Noble Drive. The installation of no parking signs 15 meters from the intersection of Noble Drive and Northgate Drive on Noble Drive, as well as 15 meters from the intersection of Archer Avenue and Northgate Drive on Archer Avenue. The installation of no U-turn signage between Archer Avenue and Ruffley Street on Northgate Drive, and the installation of center only 40 kilometers per hour bullards near the pathway entrance on Fletcher Street. Okay? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, that's that. We're on to no new business. Bylaws. So I have, because we amended the report 11.7 or 8, I think it was. 11.7. I have the recommendation that the bylaws 2024-55, 2024-62, 24-63, 24-66 be passed. Save and accept 2024-65. All right. So that's 15.4. So it is that bylaws 2024-55, 62, 63, and 66. So 55 is traffic bylaw amendment. 62 is Bradford Capital Holdings, Inc. Remove the bylaw. And 63 is Canada Community Building Fund, Municipal Funding Agreement bylaw. And 66 is the Official Plan Amendment number 4 bylaw. Okay, and we removed 15.4. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sandu, seconded by Councillor Giordano. Bylaws? Bylaws? 15.4 is removed. We won't be passing it tonight. Because of what we did already. That's where in the recommendation said it'll come back September 3rd. Okay, so they've got some adjustments to do that. So Councillor Giordano, I asked if you second the bylaws, save and accept 15.4. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Merci for watching. We hope if you live in the Bradford area, and even if you live in broader Region 7 area, you were able to get a little bit of insight into what's happening in Bradford. As we mentioned earlier, Bradford is not unlike the many rural communities that encompass Region 7. So some of these issues that are affecting Bradford might be affecting you as well. And if you would like us to cover those stories, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in this video for ideas for stories that are happening in your area. Merci for watching, and we'll see you down the river.